Ever since I showed you those first videos from the ocean floor of the OceanGate Titan submersible implosion wreckage site, I've been getting hit with the same question over and over again. Can you imagine what that is? So that's the burning question of the day, folks, okay? I have the same question as probably all of you do. Where are the bodies? They got to be somewhere. Something must have happened to them. So you can see just how many people had this question. This is just on the video that I released on September 18th, 2024, where they were showing us all of that video that when they spotted Titan at the bottom of the ocean floor there. But just look how many questions here are all asking the same thing. Like this one here, where are all the bodies? And Lori asking, so where would the bodies be? No one ever mentioned if they found the bodies, did they? And then Jody here says, where are the bodies or the clothing of the people who died? I didn't even see a shoe. I mean, how does pressure make things no longer exist? Every particle vanishes when there is enough pressure? No evidence of humans, but tons of that ship? That's a really good loaded question right there. I like this one here from Aaron. Probably because of skeletons and bodies that might be there. But you can see the list just goes on and on where they virtually asking the exact same questions. Everybody wants to know what happened to these bodies. Where? Oh, this guy's really mad about it. Where are the bloody bodies inside the sub? It's almost like they want to see it. We want to see intestines, dang it. We want to see crushed skulls. We want to see it all. This guy here, he sounds very, very disappointed. He wanted to see a leg, man.
Here's a leg.
It's a wing. What do you like, the leg or the wing, Henry? Oh, you still go for the old heights and long.
Oh, that's so bad.
And I think Andy Thomas here probably got it the most correct. He says, obviously cut out the parts that showed the bodies. Probably had parts floating by. Oh, what a thought that would be. That kind of reminds me of that scene from Jaws. What about the bodies? They sure imploded, but they can't just disappear. Parts have been found, but they do not want to show it. Everybody, just one after another, after another, after another, was asking the same question about these bodies. Where the heck did they go to? And this guy here says, oh, it's fake like the chat logs. No dead bodies or parts in sight. 0 out of 10. He was disappointed. This guy definitely has been watching too much of The Walking Dead, and he wanted to see blood and guts. See, this guy's probably more on the right track here. Did their bodies blow to pieces? So you can just see the crazy amounts of questions about this. Everybody wants to know. They seem to be very standoffish about giving too much information about what they found in relation to the bodies. But first, real quick, I just had to share this with you. It's a funny photo I found on the internet. This kind of reminds me of something Stockton Rush would have done during his college years. But we do have some clues here. So the Coast Guard and the media did offer up some clues for us as to what sort of body parts they found or anything. If you go back to the story dated June 28th, 2023, you can see this is Action News 12 from their website, actionnewsnow.com. They had this story where it says, presumed human remains found in the debris field of the doomed Titan submersible Coast Guard. Okay, so they're saying it was found in the debris field. However, you're going to see they're conflicting here, because when you scroll down here and look, they're saying here, and this was quoted from CNN actually, the Coast Guard recovered presumed human remains from the sea floor, right here, of the doomed Titan submersible's debris field, the military branch said Wednesday. But then it almost contradicts itself, because now it says here, the remains were recovered within the wreckage of the submersible. The Coast Guard said in a news release. Okay, so let's go look at that news release. I want to get the exact wording so we can see what they're talking about, what they found. So I go here to the exact press release directly from the Coast Guard, and it says here, United States medical professionals will conduct a formal analysis of presumed human remains that have been carefully recovered within the wreckage at the site of the incident. So now here they're saying it was recovered within the wreckage at the site. So it's kind of different here. See, there's a difference here, people, because semantics matter. What did they find and where did they find it? Did they find it in the debris field, which is probably a couple of 100 yards total? Or was it really found just inside the wreckage of the sub? because that might give us indications as to what sort of condition they might have found the bodies in. And the Coast Guard actually gave us some pretty good clues on the very first day of those hearings back on September 16th, 2024. This is when they convened that Marine Board investigation panel. They heard 2 weeks of testimony from different witnesses. And so the first presentation made at this Marine Board investigation meeting that was done there at this public hearing on September 16th was right here. So on this slide presentation that they gave, on the very last slide, you notice how they always embed anything useful on the very end slide. Not the very end, because that's the end slide. This is what we're talking about right here. It says, during the 2 recovery operations, presumed human remains were recovered from the Titan ocean floor site. And then it says the remains were recovered and respectfully transported to shore. And then here's the biggie right here. It says the Armed Forces Medical Examiner System, specifically the DoD DNA Identification Laboratory located in Dover, Delaware, positively identified DNA profiles for the 5 victims, and the Rhode Island Medical Examiner coordinated decedent affairs with the families. So this almost says to me that this presumed human remains means that maybe they found a bunch of pieces and, well, we don't know. It looks like it's human. We're going to presume it's human remains. They weren't very descriptive about what they had. Did they find a leg in a boot or something like that? So we just simply don't know. But we do know that they said they identified all 5 people. So part of me wants to say, okay, so they found a bunch of pieces there, and they were able to luckily identify all of the guys on board. Or did they really recover 5 kind of mushy bodies still in their clothes or whatever, and were able to identify them that way? Now, here's something that I want to point out to you, is when we look at the wreckage, it looks like you have approximately, I don't know, what, 30% of the submarine looks somewhat intact, right? So let's take a look. Let's do a freeze frame right here. So here's the largest chunk of the OceanGate Titan submarine debris that they found down on the ocean floor. And I want to zoom in here. And I also want to take a look at some of the NTSB photographs that were provided too, that are much clearer. So the NTSB provided us with these pictures that were taken by Pelagius Research, who was the company that went down and brought up all of the debris. And so this is what the main wreckage looked like as it was, of course, discovered on the ocean floor. But I want to look at this next shot. There's a couple of shots here that take us close. Of course, there's the forward dome that was found a few yards away from it. So a lot of the bigger, heavier chunks sort of landed together, which makes sense, the way they would have fallen down the water column, as we call it. The water column is that narrow line leading from the surface of the ocean down to the bottom of the ocean floor, where the Titan submarine does its descent from. So they call that the water column. And of course, they found all of these chunks here, not far away. So all of these were in fairly close proximity, but it was all of the other stuff that ended up pretty far away. But when I want to take a look here is right here, right along here on the right side, the hull piece A. This is sort of delaminated. And so if you were looking now, the guys would probably have been sitting like right in here in this section. There's a floor in there, of course, and the floor is likely in this pile of mess right here, or just broken up elsewhere. We simply don't know. You know that since this is the aft dome here and the aft ring, the forward ring would have been over here, and the forward dome, of course, with that plexiglass viewport, would be right over here. And so all of the passengers were in this section right here, probably sitting somewhere about in this area. And so when you look at this pile of debris, it really looks like it wasn't so much of an implosion as it was a buckle. So as I mentioned before, all of those 3D animations that were shown in 2023, a lot of those people have to now go back and rethink those and show them as a buckling implosion, a buckling that took place, and that it sent everything shooting this way. If it was a true implosion like everybody was animating and showing in 2023, the thing would have blown up in a million pieces, but it didn't, simply because these carbon fiber chunks were just too big to just like blow up. And so they ended up in much larger chunks than everybody originally anticipated. And these chunks appear to have just been shot right into the rear end, into the aft end, and they're completely filling that large dome area here. Okay, so it's all caught in there. And then when they come around the other side of it, and look, here you get a much better view. Here is that aft dome. Here's the bottom of it. And everything is just piled up in there. So I bet if you were to, like, you know, think of this as an exploded view, and if you were to pull all of these pieces back out and pull them out, you'd probably have 70-80% of the entire carbon fiber cylinder that you could put together like a puzzle, and it would come right back together again. You know, you ask, well, where are the bodies? You know that they're not going to release any photos of any bodies that were down there, nor are they probably going to show any blood either. And so they likely have pictures that were taken in and about. Maybe the camera moved like a foot over this way, and let's say, for example, maybe they saw a piece of flesh in here, and maybe they got it out of the way already and then came back and took these pictures. It could be the bodies were there and they were just removed, and now they're looking at this stuff and photographing this here and analyzing the whole site. So here's my hypothesis of what I think happened to Stockton Rush, because when you look at where everybody sits here in the Titan submarine, you know, there's usually two guys sitting on this side and two guys sitting on this side. And then, of course, Stockton Rush, who we affectionately call Stockton Crush. Where do you think he sits? He doesn't sit with those guys. He's sitting more in the aft section, isn't he? In the back, facing them, operating the controls, isn't he? You see what I'm getting at? So this is why I think, you know, the two guys were sitting here, other two guys were sitting here, and Stockton Rush was likely sitting back here on the back, right? And so I think he got blown into the back dome here. That's my guess, if I had to make a good hypothesis here, because everything sitting out over here looks like it's kind of blown out. But if he was sitting here, and if all of this material here blew in from over here from the right, this is what I think happened. I think it all came over from the right and shot all the way into the left, and he probably just got smacked in the face, and the body and everything in his whole body just got crushed and pushed right back in here. That would be, I think, a pretty decent hypothesis. So let us know in the comments what you guys think. I want to hear your opinions of what you think happened to the bodies. And then possibly the others either got pushed in there with him or they got blown out. I'm looking here at the debris field map that Pelagius Research made while they were down there. They charted this, and so you can see that this was the last known position of Titan right here, this red dot. And it seems that they found most of the big stuff right around here, because here it says general debris field, debris target 1. Here's the end caps of in the capsule were all found over here. The metal ring was found here. So all of these guys were found, it looks probably like within maybe 30 or 40 yards of each other, like within 100 feet of each other. But look how a lot of stuff scattered this way, according to probably the currents. But then as we look up here, look in the upper section here, see where I keep seeing these little dots that say small white debris? Now that, of course, is not going to be your carbon fiber, because that would be like black or gray. And I think I saw some here that said carbon fiber anyway on here. But, you know, so you have black debris, small white. So I don't know if that's flesh or just something else. But you can see it looks like mostly lighter things that they find a lot further away. You know, your skid debris, more white debris. And the heavier stuff is going to be found closer to the water column, which is right in this area here. And you can see where the bow of the Titanic is. It's actually, you know, not too far away there, a couple of 100 yards away from where the water column is. But let's see if we can find, see, because right up here, see this dot? It says carbon fiber debris. So they definitely will differentiate, or maybe they chose not to even mention where the bodies were. So if the bodies were found anywhere, it was probably found here in the debris field. Now they're not saying really where that, if this was the main target piece right here. So the bodies were either found in the middle of that target debris, or they could have just been blown out from the implosion, and they were found in this general area here. And the bodies would likely be mush by this point. Mush, but probably still somewhat intact. And remember, your bones even are not really solid. They are somewhat hollow, even though you have marrow in them. At that pressure, that's nothing. Your bones will just snap and crack and all of that. Now, you might recall back in 2009, Mythbusters did an episode where they simulated a diver in a dive suit going down 300 feet, and they made it out of pig skin and muscle and bones and everything. They kind of sewed all of the parts together and made an artificial human being, and then they stuck it in there, and there's what it looked like after being imploded on at 300 feet deep. Now, of course, the Titanic is much deeper, and so you can see what was happening inside the wetsuit there. So it was pretty grody. Now, those of you who are already subscribers here on the channel, you're already aware that I've already done 2 videos so far on the CEO shooting up in New York City. You can check this video out here, and then make sure you also check out this other video in case you haven't seen any of the previous videos I've done here on the OceanGate Titan submersible implosion. So thanks for joining us tonight, folks, and we will see you on the next one.